let's welcome to the stage Miss Margaret Cho.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hi. Thank you. Thank you.
Happy April Fool's Day.
Happy April Fool's Day.
It's kind of interesting that your like I said, your record "Lucky Gift" came out on Valentine's Day,
Mhm.
and I did mention that it was your first musical album, at least in 8 years.
Yes.
So, why? I know you're obviously you got a lot going on. You're like on game shows, and you
Yeah.
have so much going on. I mean, weren't you just on like a
I'm
couple game
I'm
shows?
the current Jeopardy champion.
Woo.
Oh, that's like for the next couple of days. Yes, thank you. And but it's well, I do just doing other stuff. I had songs recorded. What I do when I like finish an album is that I have more songs. What I leave songs over from the last record to make, like, because I had like sourdough starter, so that I can make it grow and rise for the next record. So it's there to leaven the next bunch of songs. And so I had like a bunch of songs that I had written. Some of them were like from 2014. So I had like things that I put on the record. I'd written with Roger Rocha, because Roger Rocha and I put together this thing out in San Francisco after Robin Williams died. When Robin Williams died, it was such a shock because I grew up with him. He was like the first celebrity autograph that I ever had at 8 years old. And then I was doing comedy in San Francisco, and he owned the comedy club. He was like a silent partner at this place called the Holy City Zoo. And he would come, and I would do comedy, and then he would always bump me, so I'd have to perform after him.
You literally were. Wait, he opened for you.
He opened for me.
Okay.
Like, but the most mortifying thing is like you having to go on after Robin Williams. And he did that to me for years. Like, he did that to me for such a long time. And it made me a better comic. And so I always, I always really loved him. I didn't know him very well, but he was such an amazing kind of person just to be around. So I knew him, but then I also had this parasocial relationship with his comedy and his movies, and of course Mork and everything. And so his death was such a abrupt shock. So when he passed away, I went to San Francisco, and Roger and I started this outreach for people experiencing homelessness called Be Robin, that was supposed to kind of emulate what Robin Williams was doing with comic relief in the 80s that he did with Billy Crystal and Whoopi Goldberg, where they were doing huge benefits with all comedians. So we brought together a lot of comedians and musicians, and we would play out on the street, and we would give away food and all sorts of stuff to people in these encampments. And we'd play a song that we wrote called Funny Man, which is on the record, that it's all, kind of about those funny people who are like not feeling so good inside, because I think that people don't really understand that being funny is a trauma response. Like, you laugh because if you don't, you'll cry. So that was one of the songs that was written, and then Roger and I wrote quite a lot of some of the record. Like, half of the record is sort of a piano side, and the other half is like the Garrison Starr guitar side. So a lot of the piano songs, and then like Doot Doot, which is more of a synthesizer song, and some of the other tracks. And so a lot of the songs written. So it's like a long period of me writing. I write and play music every day because I'm trying to stave off dementia. Like, it's like a real, like, I think that if I learn, because I don't do crossword puzzles, so I think if I learn something of an instrument, like, I maybe won't be like so bad off later.
Didn't you tell me upstairs that Josh Klinghoffer, formerly of the Red Chili Peppers, is your guitar teacher, or was?
Yeah, Josh Klinghoffer taught me most of the chords that I use today, and he taught me like all of the sort of exercises, and he would come to my house, and he was the kind of guy, like, he was like carries his guitar without a case, which is so weird when people do that, but like he did it like he was, like he was about to just jump onto the boxcar of a train. Like, he was so convincingly like that journeyman, but like played everything. He's like a musical genius, and he would kind of charge me whatever I was willing to pay him. He's like, whatever you think it's worth, which is, it's actually priceless for him to teach you how to play. But I was so lucky to have somebody like that to help me.
Well, you've worked with a lot of amazing musicians, and I want to talk, of course, about that, and also talk more about specific tracks on the album. We mentioned "Funny Man." I definitely am going to ask you about "Doot Doot" because, like, fun fact, that's actually literally your favorite song of
Yeah,
all time, which is a huge compliment
yeah,
to the band because you know a lot about music. But we've talked about this before, but I think it'd be interesting to talk about it in front of the audience about like the first records you got into. I know like it was either Billy Joel or it was the Go Go's, but like
yeah.
how did you first develop this lifelong obsession with music? First as a fan, which now led you to be a musician yourself.
I think it was just like when I heard the music, it was so amazing to me, and it took a long time for me to realize the music I was playing was the same music that I was hearing, and then when we made the connection, because I played piano as a really young person, and I was singing at 5, and so I was like, my parents are musicians, so there was always singing in the house, but I never realized that the songs out of the radio were the same thing. So when I realized they were the same, it was when I learned how to play "Close to You" by Burt Bacharach. Like I was like, oh, the Carpenter song. That's a very like I realized that that's actually the same song. So then it was like a very empowering thing, and I was just very obsessed with music. I still think like those early albums, like Beauty and the Beat by the Go-Go's or Vacation by the Go-Go's or Glass Houses. Glass Houses for me is like still my favorite Billy Joel record and one of my favorite records anyway because it's just so many moods in it and so many ways that Billy is Billy in that whole thing. So I'm just so moved by all of that music still.
Is that the first record you ever bought, Glass Houses?
I think the first record I ever bought, I think with my own money, I feel like it was Glass Houses. I don't know. It's hard to think. It's hard to think back because I was also an early victim of the Columbia scams, where you would pay a penny, and then you would get like so many records that you didn't want to have, and then they wouldn't stop sending. I don't even know how we got out. I think we had to have like litigation or something to get out of that. Like I'm not sure. I might still have it.
Did they hunt people down if you got, whatever, the 12 records for a penny and then like never signed up for the monthly subscription?
Well, I think that the thing is, you were trapped into it. Like it was a literal scam because you couldn't get out of it. There was no way you had to tape the penny to the card and then send that in, and then you would get and then they would keep on sending. And yeah, it was very predatory.
I don't know. At the time, it seemed like a good. I don't know. I guess at the time, it seemed like a good.
It seemed like
deal.
a good deal, but then at the end, then there's like, what do you even pick? There's like so many good ones, and then yeah, definitely want the Boston record, definitely want the 38 special, and then you're like, I'm getting the Chuck Mangione. Like, I don't know if I want that.
So you mentioned that you were singing at 5. I actually didn't know also that your parents are musicians.
Yes.
So why? Obviously, you're a musician, but primarily people know you as a comedian and actress. Like, was there ever a chance that being a musician, a pop star, was going to be your plan A?
I don't know. I think because it was the path to that, like as a young person, seemed so difficult. Like that was for an Asian American artist, that meant you had to go to Juilliard and then be like performing these concert halls. And I had done some recitals and things like that, and I was so nervous. Like I had like many like so much performance anxiety doing like these classical pieces, like playing Beethoven and Mozart and all that stuff, that it was.
Do you read music?
I do. Like I know how to read music. I sort of like I've lost some of it because I just don't sort of pay attention to that. I would have to like really go back in and do it, but I can. And so but like the performance anxiety of like playing classical pieces and these places was just too much, and that just seemed like a very difficult life. And I guess because I didn't see any Asians doing stand-up comedy, I thought, well, I don't know, I'll just do it. It doesn't matter. It won't make a difference.
I would think that doing stand-up comedy would be more nerve-wracking than playing music, because I feel if like any kind of live performance, that's the one where there's just no room to suck. Like you either have to be funny or not. Like you can play an instrument not that well and sort of fake it by rocking out. You can have an imperfect singing voice and still be great. But your comedy, you just have to be funny or not. I feel like that would be way more nerve-wracking than playing music live.
Yeah, but then the possibilities are infinite. Whereas when you're playing classical music, everybody knows the piece that you're supposed to be playing, and then when you make it a mistake, it's so apparent. So it's very like to me, it was like so scary. I think because there was no room for improvisation, there was no room for rocking out. Maybe it would be different if it was something like rock and roll, where there was more leeway. But there was the rigidity of like going and playing, and like the seriousness of like music school was like too much for me.
So your first album, which does rock, was Codependent in 2010, I believe. I can't
Mm-hmm.
believe it was.
Yeah.
So it was 15 years ago, and you were talking about some of the people you worked with, like a whole bunch of like cool
Yeah.
indie people on that. How did that record come together? Relatively late in your career, like
Yeah.
you'd already well established yourself and doing everything else. What made you take the plunge with that record then?
Well, I had been like hanging out with musicians for such a long time, and I thought, well, this is kind of like, while we're hanging out, maybe I should get them to make a song with me and like write a song and like do this and do that. And everybody was so willing to do it, and it was fun. Like it was fun to go into the environments of Tegan and Sarah to watch how they work and all of their different rules, like to live their sort of tour life for a little bit. Like Tegan and Sarah, no drugs, no sex on the bus, absolutely none. And I was like, that's so interesting because there's other bands that all you do is fucking do drugs on their bus. So it's very different. Um, but they, Tegan and Sarah were so awesome to work with because they just took it so seriously. And I had such a great time, like being in their band for a bit and then hanging out with, like, I got to tour with them a little bit when they were on tour with Paramore in Australia. It was just so exciting to just be a part of it.
So that album had Tegan, Sarah, and Ben Lee.
Ben Lee did quite a lot of producing for me on that record, and so he and I worked on quite a few songs. He's sort of almost one of the main producers of that record, along with Garrison Starr, who I will always work with. Garrison Starr is a genius, and she's an amazing singer-songwriter.
She's in the house tonight.
She's in the house tonight. She's in my band. But she's like, I guess if I'm Bob Dylan, then she's my Robbie Robertson. She's my band. She's like the band that holds it down for me and really sees my music to the best level that it can be. So I'm so grateful for her. And so she worked heavily on the album, as did Ben Lee. So they helped me a lot. I learned a lot about production from John Bryan, who is also an incredible artist, but an amazing producer. And so he worked with me. He's such an exacting producer. Like I'm so satisfied with so little. Like I ask so little of myself all the time. Like I'm so bad. Like I'll do one and then it's over. But you had to do it so many times to please him, which you get into wanting to do. Then you like realize, oh, there's a perfectionism that I could adhere to, and he really taught me that. Fiona Apple is also on the album, who's so phenomenal and just an incredible singer and just an incredible artist and just a really fun person to hang out with. We got high a lot and just had the best time. I think just all the different personalities that I got to work with, whether it was Tommy Chong, who I didn't get high with. And that's the strangest part. We didn't do any drugs. And Cypress Hill. We did no drugs. It's really weird who I don't get high with. But
you gotta like keep people surprised.
Keep them guessing.
Don't want to fall into the cliches.
They didn't want to get typecast. No, we didn't do any drug. Andrew Bird was really incredible too. Andrew Bird is just such a genius. And
Andrew Bird, the guy you did I'm
Sorry.
That's there's a crazy story.
Yeah, I'm Sorry was okay. So I used to have a crush on this guy, he worked on my television show from 1994, All American Girl. So he was one of the writers, right? He was this was a big deal. This is the first Asian American family on television, and this is in the 90s. So it's like a big deal. So these are like big writers coming to work on the show. So I like had a crush on him, and he didn't really like me, but he kind of, I don't know, we like hung out. He came over. He pushed me down on the stairs at like one time, and I was like, that's weird. And I was like, because we're not in a relationship, so is it domestic violence? Like, I don't know, like what, I wasn't sure. Like, it's weird. So, I mean, what is that when you get beat up, but it's like a situationship? Like, I don't know, it's weird. So anyway, like I didn't talk to him anymore, and then at like in like 2008, this is like 14 years later. I was like, well, what happened to that dude? I'm like, oh, Google, and I Googled him, and then on his Wikipedia, it came up that so he had got married, and then his wife, he strangled her and then left her in the closet for a month until she had partially mummified. And then he had a baby with her that he just kind of left crying in the crib when he just like walked out one day after she had been dead for a month and he'd be taking care of the baby by himself. And then he decided he wasn't going to care for the baby anymore, and he just started walking away. So he just walked away, and the baby was found alive by miracle. But 3 days later in the crib, but it was the baby was alive, little boy, and he was sent to prison. And
Is he still in prison?
no, he's out.
No.
So he was supposed to go to prison for 26 years. I think he only did about 10 years of his sentence. And so I wrote the song that it was kind of like, I just wanted to sort of write my feelings about this person who I thought so highly of. It's so weird when somebody you think so highly of murders their spouse and leaves them in the closet till they're partially mummified, and then abandons their child. So I wrote the song, and then I guess I don't know if it's his attorney or somebody reached out to me and said, he wants you to hear his side of the story. And I'm like, I don't want to hear his side. I don't think you can, whatever you say, I'm not going to go, oh, I see why you did
He
that.
was
Like,
mad
I
that you
can't.
wrote a song about him.
Yeah, he was mad that I wrote the song, but he was also like wanted to hook up. I don't know. Anyway, he's free, and so
Oh man.
I don't know what's going on.
So that was an interesting album.
Yeah,
And it was nominated for a Grammy.
it was nominated for a Grammy, which was really, really exciting. I'm so grateful to the Grammys have always been great acknowledging my work, and so I'm like baby steps to an EGOT. Like I have 1 Emmy nomination and 5 Grammy nominate. You got to win though to get an EGOT. So I have to. I do a little couple harder. Do a little. See, I have to spend more time on my work. That's I get all first drafts, everything.
I do, you are one of the few comedians who has, I think, credibly made a crossover I mean, there's obviously humor in your music, but it is serious music. There aren't, like Steve Martin's a good example of someone who's actually done that. So I do want to sort of talk about a few other things that have happened that you've done musically leading up to Lucky Gift. I'm sure some people in here know the story, but like weren't you like literally David Bowie's newsletter writer?
Yeah. Well, I wrote some pieces about him and I put them online. And when he did the reality tour in 2003, he decided not to do any press for it, and instead he would send out my writing to news organizations to use as like press releases. So it was really wonderful. So he invited me to all of the West Coast states of his show, and I was just like, I mean, that's the Bowie's the best. So like I was so excited to go, and I wore these like the Chinese emperor outfits that were like so over the top, but with like booty shorts, so he could appreciate it. And
Good look.
like he would, he gets it. Like if you mix like royal sort of fine garments with like hoochie, like it's Bowie coded, so it makes sense. And so he was so excited about the outfits, and so I went to one of the shows, and the next day he did Ellen. And he was talking all in all about my outfit to Ellen. And she's such a cunt. She's so jealous. She cut it out of the show. And the only way that I knew that it was on the show is the producer of the show is a really good friend of mine, called me and he said, you know what, I guess I have to tell you this. God just said your name and just told me all the things that David Bowie said, all of the stuff. And that she's like, I couldn't let you not know about that. You had to know about this.
Is this on YouTube? I need to find
It's
it.
not. It's not. I mean, none of it. She cut it out. I'm so glad she went to England.
Because she was jealous?
She was jealous. I hope everywhere she goes, her house floods. Because that is fucked up.
It is.
Like, what kind of bitch does that? When Bowie talks about you with such glowing praise and you cut that out, I'm sorry, we're enemies. I've had it with her. I've had it with her.
That is fucked up. How did he come across your writing? I mean, how flattering as a writer as well as a fan for him to choose you to represent him.
I mean, I guess that what he had told me, he said that he was a fan of my comedy and that he really liked what I did and that he would love to come see me anytime. And, you know, I had asked him to be part of Codependent and he said that he couldn't, but he was really honored to be asked. And, you know, I loved him so much. And I think, you know, I was just lucky to finally meet him.
I mean, very, very lucky. Ellen could never.
Ellen be damned. No, she's cool. Whatever. No, because I used to open. This is weird about Ellen. I used to open for her in the 1980s, you know? Like, I was like her opening act for a long time. And it was so weird because, like, she invited me to do her show during the first writer strike, which she wanted me to cross the fucking picket line. I'm like, no, I can't. But then later when I did it, she act like we just met. Like, every time I see her, that bitch acts like we just met. I'm like, bitch, I have known you since 1980. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, it's so weird. Like, there's something like comedians code, like we're cool with each other, but also lesbian code. We're like really cool with each other. And that's fucked up. And also, you cut out what Bowie said about me. We're not friends.
That's amazing. More cred is, I actually found this out when I did the last interview with you recently for this, is that you played Bonnaroo with the Flaming Lips and Gore.
Yes.
That's a great triple bill. Margaret Cho, Flaming Lips, Gore.
Yes.
Tell me, I mean, you've sort of been welcomed into all these cool
all these like fandoms, which is really exciting. With Flaming Lips, I got to go sort of, they have a whole crew of fans. They really invite all their fans and they have like all this choreography that they do. So I was just sort of behind that, like joining all their fans and kind of rushing in the stage while they were, Wayne is in the plastic ball going over the crowd, which is so incredible. But Gore, I actually did some stunts with them. They had kind of poured all this like fake blood onto me on the stage, and it was really incredible. But hanging out with Gore is really strange because they're in these giant outfits that are, you know, huge. I don't even know what material it is, but they've got huge platforms and they're sort of these big creatures, and they have to, in order to stay cool in their suits, and the Bonnaroo's in summer and it's very hot in Tennessee, they have to wear these suits, so they eat tons of Altoids to make it tolerable for them to be in the suit. So it's kind of a cooling effect.
I thought the Altoids were so they weren't smelling their own bad breath within the enclosure.
Maybe, but it's also, I think, just
cooling.
to keep, it's a cooling effect of the menthol that's going inside, so it keeps them a little bit like the temperature control. It's like sort of a trick. So when you talk to them, it's like like being in an Altoids cloud. It's very, very minty, and it's a strange thing because they're just huge, like horror monster creatures full of like gore and blood, but it's pure mint.
Was that a trick, pro tip that you used when you went on season 1 of The Masked Singer as the poodle? Because I imagine the poodle costume was warm.
It was funky inside that dog head. Let me tell you, like it smelled nasty. Like
still one of the best Masked Singer costumes they ever had.
Thank you. I did love the costume, but yeah, it's hard in the head because you're trying to sing and then they just sort of isolate you. It feels very weird to be inside of it. I mean, I guess like sonically also as a singer, it's very strange to be inside of the head and you feel very separated from everybody, but that's a fun show to do.
And that was season 1. I mean, the show is now in literally season 13 and it's still like one of the biggest hit shows on Fox, but kind of people didn't know. I mean, I love that show. I just
I love it.
And so many awesome, like on your season, I think T-Pain won.
Yeah.
I think Gladys Knight was
on. She was incredible.
Yeah. So you were among great company.
Tommy Chong also.
Yeah. He was the pineapple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think maybe no one really guessed you, not even Ken, who you knew, right?
No Ken Jeong, who I have known all of his career. He used to open for me in the 90s when he was in college. So and I played his sister on his television show. Like, I'm good friends with him. So I was convinced he was going to guess right away, and he had no idea. So it was pretty incredible.
Well, I think that might be because a lot of people, unless they've heard your music, I think a lot of people don't realize that you can sing really
Yeah.
well and that you're a singer. I think
Yeah.
that might have actually been kind of an introduction to some people
Yeah.
about that. So,
Yeah.
is that important to you to be taken seriously as a singer and a musician?
No, I mean, I think it's just something that I do for myself. Like, I really love music, and I've always done it, and I've always made music. I've always played it. I've always wanted to sing, and for me, it's just part of my expression. And whether or not people respond to it, it's not really that important. It's just that I love it, but I really would love to be a one-hit wonder. Like, that would be really exciting.
Well, what about Cho Am a Woman
Oh, I
with
chose
Desmond Child?
That was really hard.
So people may not know what I'm referring to, but it was a bop.
It was a bop. Joe. I did one of those songs that one of the Swedish guys wrote for Britney that she didn't want to do, so I did it instead, and we did it at it was like really lavish. It was like at Sunset Sound, and Desmond Child, who's an amazing producer. He produced like Meatloaf, and he's like also an incredible singer as well. But he produced the song, and it was like such a hard thing to do, like a really vocally difficult song like that. I mean, Britney. Now I know people are like, "Oh, keep her away from knives," but she is a really incredible vocalist. Like, it's really hard to step into the casualness and the magic of what she does. So it was a hard song for me to sing.
So we're talking about one hit wonders, and so let's get into the song that you mentioned that you covered. So Lucky Gift, a lot of the vibes I get from Lucky Gift are 90s vibes, and
Yeah.
we can talk more about that. But you covered an 80s, I consider one hit wonder. It's a little bit more of a cult classic. It's Doot Doot, which is by, I always pronounce their name a little weird, by
Fleur.
So that actually is the pre-Underworld band. Those guys ended up becoming Underworld, which
Yeah.
is a fun fact. But it was a big song on K-Rock. I don't know how big it was, but with all of your knowledge of music and all of your love of music, literally Doot Doot is your favorite song of all time.
Yeah, it's my favorite song of all time because sonically it gives birth to so much of what electronica became. I mean, you would not have Charlie XCX now if you didn't have a band like Doot Doot, like creating all this stuff like with synthesizers. I mean, it's just melodic and deep and so moving. Like, you don't realize a machine can move you, and that's why it's such an important song to me. It's also LaRue, who's here tomorrow, her favorite song.
It is?
Yeah, you're talking to her.
I'm moderating the LaRue thing.
Talk to her.
It's literally her favorite song.
Yeah, it was on one of her mixtapes.
And she said it was one of her.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so she had it. It's just a little bit, the way that she sort of put it out as a DJ, it's a little bit more sped up, but she loves that song as well. But I just think it's such a, I don't know, it's a seminal, as the sort of rock people like to say.
So how did you approach it? As they say on shows like American Idol, how did you make it your own when you decided to cover it?
I do like my version of like a scat over it. Like, I do a little bit of a kind of a spoken word because it's like, to me, it's just about, there's a poetry to it that is incomplete in the lyrics. And so I wanted to add another layer, and it's me just talking to birds. So that's kind of what I was sort of visualizing talking to birds, but I really, I just love the song. I love the way that Roger and I approached and did the cover. It's really always a very unique experience to cover another artist's music. So I was really excited the way that it came out.
Do the Freur guys or the Underworld guys, do they know this is your favorite song? Have you ever had a chance to communicate with them and tell them that?
I hope that I can tell them that sometime.
It would be pretty amazing if you could collab somehow.
That would be great.
That would be pretty awesome. So, but I did mention that a lot of the things that I hear on this record, I'm hearing, and I wrote down, I hear, Veruca Salt.
Yeah.
90s Sisyphus actually reminds me a bit of Volcano Girls.
Yeah.
But there's, that Letters to Cleo
Yeah.
vibe, that kind of like pop thing, Apples and Stereo, Juliana Hatfield kind of thing. So, and I hear some Go-Go's too to go back to the 80s. So tell me what was like inspiring you on this record.
Lilith Fair. Like, this is like, I'm the artist. I'm going to play 440 right after Meredith Brooks. I'm going to borrow her setup. I'm going to borrow her amps. And I'm a bitch. I'm a lover. And like that, like kind of vibe. Like I'm in a slip dress. I have my acoustic guitar. I'm kind of in a fight with Jewel. And it's, we're kind of arguing, but it's going to be okay. I did a show. I was on a festival. This is years ago. It was a True Colors. It was a True Colors, and it was in Canada, and it was a Sarah McLachlan.
And Colors is the song you sang as the Mass Singer Poodle, by the way.
Oh yes,
it's all connected.
That's right. But it was the True Colors Cyndi Lauper tour because I had been on that tour in Canada with them, and so I was there and. Rosie and I were just getting so stoned, and then we had this like dirty, filthy roach that was like this big, that was just covered with like saliva. It was gross, and I handed it to Sarah McLachlan, and she looked at me like she looks at the dogs that are going to be in the SPCA. Like she looked at me like the one-eyed dog in the animal shelter, like, I'm so sorry for you that you're trying to pass me this disgusting joint, and I am the beautiful and angelic Sarah McLachlan, and you're trying to give me the most filthy half an inch roach covered in saliva.
Did she pass?
She didn't. She just looked at me like so sad, like, oh, like that's so sad that you're trying to give that to me. And she said, no.
Well, tell me about that specific song. I mean, I'm going to ask about different songs, but since I'm talking about the 90s, there's a track on Lucky Gift literally called 90s Sisyphus. I believe it was a bit Oasis inspired.
It's Oasis inspired. It's kind of like, okay, so the opening track of the album is Lucky Gift, which is a song that it's about falling in love when you feel ugly. And it's great. Like, to me, it's like the most optimistic, like, falling in love song. So it's about falling in love with somebody, which happened, and then about starting a band with them, and then going on a tour where you play a huge rock festival, and then you break up right before you go on. So that's sort of how the trajectory of all that went. And so we were like,
did that happen in real life?
Well, in a way, not exactly, but it's sort of the way that emotionally how it sort of happened. We kind of got this part in this relationship, but then it just sort of, we couldn't go any further. And so 90 Sisyphus is like the fantasy of like kind of being in this rock band, like it's supposed to be great, but then you're in an argument with your lover and you break up right before you're supposed to hit the stage and at Nebworth in front of 950,000 people.
Wasn't Lucky Gift the song you just mentioned, the title track, wasn't that written on a mandolin or something?
It was written on it's a guitar that has a mandolin, so it's a double-necked instrument, so that the mandolin is on top and the guitar is on the bottom, and I play it all like one long stringed instrument. And a couple of the songs are on the album are written that way, so it with this instrument, which allows different kinds of voicing, and then also to play it like one big long thing. So it was a really interesting instrument. It's kind of like, it looks like if you put like a caramel and chocolate and left it in the car and it melted, so it's different kinds of brown sort of melted together, and it's like two instruments that shouldn't be together, but that they sort of are together. And I've never seen any other instrument like that, but I got that, and a lot of that was what wrote a lot of the songs.
Well, obviously a lot of songs on the album are autobiographical, or at least semi-autobiographical, but there are a couple that are more like story songs. Mm-hmm. And I love Waterside. I feel that has, I don't know what, if anything, real life inspired it, but could you tell me about the whole premise of that song?
Well, Waterside is about, it's sort of my attempt at a Jellyfish song, which is another band that I really love, who John Bryan was in also, and Jason Faulkner.
I'm obsessed with Jellyfish.
I'm obsessed.
We could talk about Jellyfish.
I love them so much. I love them so much.
They absolutely are so underrated. If there's one band I'd like to ever see reunite, it would be them.
I would love to see them reunite. I would love to see them. It
probably won't happen, but we have your tribute.
The tribute is like, Roger, who also loves Jellyfish, wrote that with me, and the song is about a beautiful male actor from England in the 1950s emigrates to the United States to be a big movie star. He's already a big star in England, but he's going to be a big Hollywood movie star. But he's gay, so he has to try to find somebody to make him less gay. So he gets shown a house, and he decides he's going to make his realtor his beard. And so it's just all about how in the 1950s it was so hard to be gay in Hollywood, and how you had to just do whatever you could to hide it. And I think that it's maybe sort of Montgomery Clift's experience, but maybe so many different guys. But
Rock Hudson.
yeah, Rock Hudson for sure. But for me, it was like I love Todd Haynes movies, so it's my version of like a Todd Haynes, like Far From Heaven or Carol, but in a song.
Have you ever worked with Todd Haynes?
Oh, I would love to. I love his movies. I think to me he is just I mean his work is unmatched, and as a queer person, as somebody who loves rock and roll, all of everything, I just love what he does.
I assume you're a fan of Velvet Goldmine?
Oh, that's my favorite. That's like my comfort film. Like I have to watch it at least to the part where Ewan McGregor shows his asshole. Like I have to watch. Like it's like, I think I can give you the timestamp when we get. I have the timestamp. I'll give you the timestamp later. But it's really, you have to watch it at least until he shows his asshole.
I always thought it was like the glam rock Eddie and the Cruisers. That movie.
It's totally glam rock Eddie and the Cruisers. It's totally glam rock La Bamba. Like it's totally like, it's just a great rock and roll film, but glam rock just doesn't, I mean, especially with R.I.P. David Johansen, glam rock is just, it's an underexplored genre that we need to go back to more, especially cinematically. It's just so visually exciting.
Absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned Todd Haynes, because completely randomly, but I was talking to someone today who went to either high school or middle school with Todd Haynes, and said like, oh, and Todd Haynes was in my carpool. He like literally told me this today.
Wow.
So maybe I should try to hook you.
Hook us up. That's great. That's incredible.
If you did a film with Todd Haynes? Like, actually, I kind of feel like you could turn Waterside into like a film.
Waterside would be a beautiful film. I mean, I think that there's so many stories like that we need to examine. There's so many stories in our history in film and cinema for queer people that have not been examined yet. So we need that.
How did you come up? Because like I said, a lot of the songs on Lucky Gift are, kind of inspired by your own life. But this one is absolutely like a story song, a fictional tale. Well, it's based on real stuff, but like, how'd you come up with this idea?
Well, I just like the idea of like living these other lives, like when you're sort of having to sort of appear one way, and then you try to sort of figure it out. And for me, it's just I like queer history. I like also that there's so much we don't know. So I would love to hear stories like that.
You have referred to yourself in an interview, actually, that you did with me earlier. You called yourself like a queer elder. Like, you felt this, maybe not a responsibility, but this desire to sort of like hand down the lore of queer history to other people.
There's so much of a need for that. And another one of the songs, You Can Be, which we're going to play tonight, it's a song for Nex Benedict, who was a teenager in Oklahoma who lost their life. And that was it was because of the bullying in school they experienced for being non-binary, for being different, and the amount of homophobia after their death, with the misgendering, the continual horrifying homophobia after this person has died, a child. It is so horrendous. I mean, what is happening currently with this administration, with I knew it was going to be bad, but it's just beyond what I imagined. And so but I wrote the song for Nex and for queer teens, non-binary teens, trans teens who are trying to navigate this horrific homophobic government and people talking the way that they talk, and to give them some kind of encouragement, because as a queer person who has grown up, we have a responsibility to these kids to make sure that they're going to be okay. That's our future. So it's just appalling the way that this celebration around, all is that we all gonna have two genders. Like, what does that even mean? Like, why? What's the point of that? Like, who cares? Like, who cares? It doesn't make any difference. You know, it's the obsession of like fairness in women's sports. How about fairness in women's lives? Like, you don't have fairness in women's lives. Why don't we start with that? Like, let's start with equal pay for equal work. Let's start with giving women rights over their own fucking bodies. Like, why is it, are you obsessed with women's sports? Like, you don't care. Nobody, they don't care about that. But it's just like
Or
this,
bathrooms.
or bathrooms. Who cares? Like, it's such an insane argument, and it backs us into a corner because we're so appalled by the way that they're thinking and the way that they're speaking about human beings, about our community, about trans people. And so it is so sickening to me. It's we've got to combat it some way. We've got to fight it some way. And you know, there's artists that are doing that. People like Anoni. You know, she's just doing amazing work and addressing it in her music, and it's really beautiful. And I just think like at least we have art. At least we have this a way to express our dissent, our disgust with what's going on.
And you can do it also with, yeah, well, yeah, let's applaud that. And although you're known for your humor, and there is a ton of it on this record, there are the serious moments too. What has been the reaction to that song, "You Can Be You"? I assume you've played it out a little bit.
Yeah, people really love it. It's really, I mean, it's really wonderful, you know. And I just think that for me, it's really encouraging that people are responding to that. But you know, it's the least that I can do. It's the least that anybody can do. We have to acknowledge what's going on, and we have to fight it with everything we have.
Well, there is that concern. I've talked to a lot of artists about this lately, people who are speaking out or making songs with political content, is that everyone is already, it's like, you know, Trump's been our president for like 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. We're already fatigued from the
Yeah.
doom scrolling, or like every time we turn on the news or look at our phones, there's like, but now, you know, like every 5 minutes there's some new thing to be outraged about. So like, how can you get that message out there without people tuning you on and being like, I don't want to hear about this anymore. Just sing about, you know, I don't know, sing about Oasis or whatever.
There's balance, you know. There's balance. I mean, for me as a comedian, I have to talk about it. That's all that I have. Like for me as a comic, like it's just so important because I look to comics for relief. Like I look to comics for some guidance and for reassurance. Like I'm always on like trying to watch The Daily Show, trying to like at least maybe make something like make sense or make myself feel better. Like comedians always make me feel better about what's going on. So I think that's important. I think that although you know, it's up to the artist like what they want to do. If they want to talk about it directly, if they want to work it out in their work, it's really up to them. It's a very personal thing. But art is being dismantled as we speak. And when we see what's happening with the Kennedy Center, I was supposed to do a show there, and of course, the Trump is taking it over. It got canceled.
It got canceled, or you chose to?
Well, I actually would have done it. I would have done it. I would have been happy to do what I do because what I do is so crass and so, you know, impossible to print that they couldn't even be outraged in the press because it would just be so wrong to talk about what I say about them that it's just they would be frozen. Like they couldn't do anything because they couldn't be outraged because they couldn't tell anybody what happened. So I think, you know, that like I would definitely do it. That would be great.
But it got canceled.
It got canceled.
Who canceled it?
I think that the event, it was called Riot. It was all feminist comedians. So you know it was definitely pulled at somewhere.
Yeah, makes sense. Are there other songs on Lucky Gift that sort of, obviously some songs are serious, and some songs are less so, but are there other specific songs that sort of speak to what's going on in the political or world climate right now?
I think like not so much political or like for me they're just more like personal. Like Wheels of Gold is a song that I wrote about my own experience as an addicted person. I'm in recovery now, but I was an opiate addict for many, many years. So it was about a decade. And so my relationship with drugs is what I wanted to put in the song. You know, I think that addiction is one of those things that it's so, when an addict writes about what they're addicted to, it's such a compelling subject. So you have that with Sia's song Chandelier, which is the most stunning example to me of an artist writing about addiction that is just so real. Another one we're going to play tonight, which is Elliott Smith's Between the Bars, which is a stunning, really like deep exploration of your relationship to your drug. And it's so intimate and powerful. So I wanted to write a song like that. And so that's Wheels of Gold.
Didn't you knew Elliot, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have any stories about what it was like? Because
I
I'm a huge Elliott Smith fan.
I am
really
such an
wish I could
Elliott
have
Smith
interviewed you.
fan. So I was going to tell this when we sang the song, but I'll do it now. So the day that Elliot died, I went to his house because I'm friends with Jennifer, and Jennifer, his girlfriend. And so I went to his house, and
The day he died, you went
yeah,
to.
he had died that night. So I was there in the morning, and so I'm there, and there was the chair where so he had come out of the bathroom with the knife in his chest, and then he came down and like his pulled out, either she pulled out the knife or he pulled out the knife, and then he sat and slumped on this chair, and that's where he died. So the chair was there, and then Motorhead, the cat, his cat, was sitting on the chair. Like the cat wouldn't leave the chair after he died. Like the cat just sat there. So I came in, and Jennifer's just like, just distraught, like totally kind of a zombie, like didn't know what to do. Hadn't slept for, it's just very like shaken. And I'd brought her a bunch of food and some shakes and stuff, and to try to keep her like together. And so I sat in the chair, and then Motorhead sat on me, and then Jennifer made me this cup of kava, which is like a really weird. It's kind of a drug, but it's like not. It's like a weird. I don't even know. It's like maybe Polynesian kind of like tree that's like a bark that it's like gives it hallucinogenic. So I drank a whole bunch of that, and I'm just sitting there, and then she's talking about what happened, and she's like, okay, well, he died in that chair, and I was like, oh my God, and then Motorhead sat on me, and then I was just having this like out-of-body experience where I'm like on this hallucinogen, and like my friend is just talking about like the horror of, her boyfriend like killing himself in front of her, basically, and it was like such a scary thing, and I was kind of like frozen in the chair, and then I couldn't get up, and then I thought I was dead. And I was like, I was really like high and weird. Like it was like a weird like ayahuasca kind of like thing. I'm like, did I die?
Didn't you do some kind of seance, or not seance, but like a ceremonial, like I seem to recall something like you lit candles.
Yeah, we lit candles, and it's like it was like a whole like day thing where I was just kind of like stuck in this chair where there was. She had brought out his photos and like put like a candle there, and like Motorhead's like sitting on me, and we're just sort of like trying to kind of commune with the spirit. And there was just something so very vibrant about it, and very scary, but also really sad. Like all of the sadness that was sort of like there, that kind of hadn't really hit. It was more shock, and so to sort of be in that, the presence of that, to be in the presence of that grief was really humbling and scary, but also really an honor too, because beyond like the art and whatever the contribution to our lives, there was just for me, like somebody that really had such an understanding of his own demons, that could write them out and could portray them both with lyrics, but also with sound, with the way that his voice sounds, the way that his music sounds, the way that the chords that he chose, the way that his instruments are played. And so it was just very, I don't know, it was like this great person had been in our lives, and so we were just honoring that. So then I left, and then Ashley called me, and said that they needed to get rid of all of his equipment, all of his instruments, and all of his studios, and they wanted me to have it, but they didn't. They didn't have. They needed money, so they asked me to buy it for $125,000, and I didn't have the money. But I really regret that now. Like I think, oh wow, that. I mean, all of that equipment now is actually in New Monkey Studios, so you can rent out the studio and it's all
Where?
there. It's in North Hollywood.
The New
At the
Monkeys?
New Monkey Studio.
Like the TV show The New Monkeys when they tried to reboot the Monkeys?
No, not that. Oh yeah, no, like the song New Monkey.
Okay. I was like, wait, what?
Um,
Sorry, that was just random. Like, what? The Monkeys? Was Elliot? I mean, Elliot's one of my favorite songwriters of all
mine
time.
too. I mean, just
Literal
so,
genius.
I mean,
Huge loss.
but it really was just getting started.
Yeah,
As
we don't
well.
know.
We don't know what he. I mean, there was so much there, but I think what was in him was such a reverence for songwriting and a reverence for his own ability to like create like all of his stuff, but also a musical genius as well and what he was able to do.
So did he? You talked about Wheels of Gold. Did he specifically influence that song?
Yes, and just also the idea of somebody talking about addiction, and I think he also. It was also the song Saint Heaven, which I think is also incredible. It's similar, actually. A lot of the songs on that record are kind of that same vibe, but it was, for me, just so arresting to have an artist really speak to their addiction in such a romantic and soft way. Because it is, like, people aren't addicts casually. Like, it's not because it's just a thing that you do. Like people are addicts because there is a true need for something, that substance, and there's a true bond that you have, and so it's hard to like pull it out and talk about it in that same way, but it's so when artists can do that, like Sia's Chandelier, it's like, to me, that's just the most phenomenal use of the idea that you can actually write about your addiction in a way that soars.
Well, I know we're sort of running. Well, we are running out of time, and I want to make sure we can go to some audience questions and then hear you. I can't wait to hear the Elliott Smith cover. But was Wheels of Gold a particularly hard song for you to write? How long? First of all, how long have you been? You've been clean for some time.
I've been sober for about a decade now. So yes. Oh, thank you.
So with that distance from writing about when you weren't, was that
Yeah.
was that a particularly hard song for you to get into?
No. I mean, for me, it's just like it's a special song because it's like now it's like sort of celebratory because I'm like away from it, but it's just a special thing to be able to write about in those terms. It's good to be away from it.
And do you mind me asking, like, how you've managed to maintain your sobriety at that time? You're obviously in environments where you would maybe be tempted to.
Yeah, but I'm really I'm really deeply rooted in the recovery community. One of the songs on the record actually is about that. It's called Melinda, and it's all about being around people who are doing the same thing. So I'm really heavily involved in that community on a lot of levels, and that's the only thing that works, But I do also, I've been in rehab for, I really thrive in an institution. I'm so good when I am put away. Like, I have the best time. I love a Grippy Socks Vacation. I just am meant.
That's a song title.
Grippy Socks
for
Vacation.
the next album.
Yeah, I'm meant for that. Like, I'm meant to just go to group and walk around in Uggs and like a juicy sweatsuit, and like I love it. So, I always consider like going back for tune-ups. It's very expensive, so that's the only thing that sort of prohibits me from doing it. But yeah, like when I went to rehab, I lived I lived down the street from Lisa Marie Presley, and so I would go down to her house, and she would invite me, and she would just sit there, and she's like, "How the fuck did you lose all that weight?" Like, she was so great. And then I lived in a house with Mac Miller.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, for me, I'm like with these like legend, and I'm like, I wanted to ask Lisa Marie, I'm like, did you fuck Michael Jackson? Like, I really was like, did you fuck him? No, but did you fuck him? No, did you fuck him? I was like, oh, I was like, okay, I'll ask her next time. I'll ask her later. I'll ask her sometime, and I'll never get to now.
She might have, if there was anyone who might have gotten an answer out of her, I think maybe she would have told you.
She would have told me. She was really cool, and like, I talked to her when her son died. Like, it was really, she was just in so much pain, and it was just really hard. But like, I think what really gave her pleasure and joy in life was her kids. Like, and that was so terrible about it. But every time she would talk about Riley, like her whole like demeanor, like her countenance would like light up. Like she was just so proud of Riley's career and like what she was doing, and just wanted to talk about it and talk about it, and like it was really beautiful. Like, so must have been so hard for her, to lose Benjamin, but she was really special. And Mac was like always playing us all these demos, and I got him and John Bryan together because John Bryan would come to rehab to visit me. And that's how he met Mac. And John actually produced Mac's record posthumously after he passed away because he was like, loved his music. Like he was so involved in what he was trying to do. So it was great to have made that connection.
That's crazy that when you were on your, what you called Grippy Socks Vacation, which I think would be a great song title for a
Yes.
future album, that you kind of brush paths with people who sadly, were not
Yeah.
as fortunate.
So
in
I'm
their
lucky,
battle.
like I'm really lucky to have like lived to see the way that, my life has gone. Like, and then also like a lot of the people from my facility died, like 20 people died. I think it was mostly like fentanyl. I think because of the way that the drug is, it just people don't have a chance to survive it now. So it's really tough.
I know I have to wrap up, but I feel like that's a weird like way to end the. Well, we do have questions we can take from the audience. I just
Yeah.
feel like okay, great, and now
Okay,
perform.
fentanyl. So anybody
I mean, I feel like that you just have so many stories. We keep
well,
going.
let's review. We talked Ellen's a cunt. Okay, so we got that.
Let's end on that note.
Elliot Smith was, he was in the room with us when he passed away, and then, yeah, we covered a lot.
We covered a lot. I just didn't want to end it on like that downer
Well,
note. But
it's
why don't we take a couple questions from
Okay.
the audience before you perform, which is going to be awesome. We can
Okay.
turn the lights up a little bit and call in a couple people. Anyone got questions for Margaret? In the back with the hat.
Thank you. The best place I ever played. Well, I love Largo, which is in Los Angeles, and I do a monthly show there. And it's like it's a place that really has supported me as a comedian, but also as a musician for all of my career. So I'm so grateful to them. That's number one. I love the Castro Theater in San Francisco. What an amazing place! It's an amazing place to do a show. I've gotten to do shows there actually as a musician and also as a comedian. It's just phenomenal. And then I love the Paramount in Seattle. What an amazing theater. I love Seattle. I love to do shows there. I made a comedy special there, Notorious CHO, many years ago. So I'm really grateful to have played there, but I love it there. Thank you.
And the Grammy Museum will be on the list.
Absolutely. The Grammy Museum has been phenomenal.
Clive Davis Theater. Anyone else? We got time for two more questions. So don't be shy.
Yes, I have about 5 songs that I've written. I'm really excited about one song. It's about a cat that escaped the Eaton fire, and so he's like a popular Instagram famous cat that escaped the.
I know which cat you're talking.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting song. But I love to write about animals. Like to me, there's a song tonight that we're going to do called Stevie, which is about an animal that is really special. So I think animals are infinitely inspiring.
And one of your animals is in the house somewhere.
Lucia was here. She was crying earlier, being bad. There she is. Good girl. Being a good girl.
She needs her own Instagram. I keep telling
She
you.
does. She does.
And does she have a question? Because she raised her paw. No, I'm just kidding. One more question. Does anyone have a question before?
And that's Ralph. Was that Ralphie? Ralphie was part of the B Robin in San Francisco. He's one of the musicians that joined us out on the street, playing and singing.
That.
Best. Cool. The best.
Anyone else? Over here, last question.
I would love a scratch and sniff, like, you know, like, for like gay sex in the 70s. So like all of like you would go and you would see kind of like what sexuality was like before AIDS. And so that you would go, it would be like a weird, like it would look kind of like an alley, but you would be able to like go into different booths and then they kind of scratch and smell like what was happening like right here. And then it would be like different levels. So you could like go down and then you could smell like, oh, that smells like somebody's asshole. And then somebody was like, oh, somebody got peed on here. And then like you go, oh, these are pit queens. Like, so you would have like the different sections of the alley of the different kinds of sex. Then there was like be like a section that was just all semen wall. So you have like the different levels of like semen. You know, I think it would be like multidisciplinary artists kind of coming together to. It would be very interactive as well. So I think that would be a great addition to the music. Even if maybe it was part-time, like if it was like a specific installation, I could curate.
Okay. Now that's the note to end it on.
Okay, perfect.
Not the fentanyl stuff. We'll end it on that.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a break so you can set up
yes,
and perform.
We're gonna
so
set
everybody, thank you so much for coming. Thank you,
Thank
Margaret.
you.
You are
Thank
awesome.
you.
And just sit tight, and Margaret will be performing in just a minute.